This talk is intended as an introduction into archival care for some common family records you may have in your home. Family archives are a valuable source for historians and genealogists who want to discover more about a person, an area, or an event. Everyone has family or personal archives. These may include life events such as birth, marriage, and death certificates, photographs and albums, letters and diaries, or legal documents such as property deeds, maps and plans, certificates of exams or awards, passports and licenses, or things such as newspaper cuttings and articles, scrapbooks, postcards, leaflets, and any other ephemera that are important to us and chronicle the events of our lives. Your family or personal archives are unique and irreplaceable, and for this reason, you should treat them with care. There are two types of damage that we have some control over: environmental and physical. Environmental damage occurs because of how or where documents are stored. Physical damage occurs because of how records are handled. This guide will essentially deal with the environmental and physical types of damage. A third type of damage, chemical, is to do with damage from within the document due to its makeup, such as cheap acidic paper. However, more preventable issues are things such as exposure to dampness, mold, insects, direct sunlight, or too much heat. Evidence of insect damage can be observed on this book on the right. A bookworm has gnawed its way through the pages. Physical damage, such as bad handling, having dirty hands, or consuming food and beverages near documents, are similar hazards. This guide includes some advice and guidelines on caring for your family archives, such as where to store them and how to care for them. It's recommended to store archives in a constant temperature between 13 and 18 degrees Celsius and between 45 and 60% relative humidity, which is a measurement of how damp or how dry the air is. In other words, for archives in our homes, this means a cool, dry place. Attics, basements and sheds should be avoided as they can get cold and damp in winter and hot and dry in summer. A suitable place might be in a dining room, a bedroom, or a spare room. Windows, pipes, and potential sources of leaks or floods should be kept at a good distance if possible. Direct sunlight damages documents and should be avoided. You should aim to keep the storage conditions stable and consistent, as fluctuations can cause damage. A high relative humidity supports the growth of mold, while a low relative humidity can be too dry and cause brittleness in paper. When handling records, you should have a clean, clear space prepared to place the originals before you take them out. You shouldn't eat, drink, or smoke around original records. You should wash your hands before handling paper and don't apply soap as it can stain paper. Paper can be handled without gloves because clean, lotion-free hands will not stain the paper, and gloves can make it more difficult to handle delicate paper. Only use pencils around records. Pens, highlighters, and post-it notes are typically not allowed in archival repositories and should be discouraged at home. Use flashless photography if you're taking pictures of your records. Leave items on the table rather than holding them in your hands when looking at them. Keep items flat and avoid bending items unnecessarily. Turn book pages by lifting from undamaged areas, generally avoiding the corners. Be careful when unfolding documents that have been creased for a long time, as items can be particularly delicate in these areas. You could handle photographs and negatives with nitrile gloves. Fingerprints can cause permanent stains on photographs and negatives. Try to handle photographs by the edges and make sure that you keep the negatives, as these are the originals. As previously mentioned, we have very little control over chemical damage because it has to do with the record medium or makeup of a record. Cheap printer paper contains acid and will quite literally eat itself over time, destroying the record. Photographs bleed colour and become extremely faded as years go by. However, we can mitigate risk by avoiding adding damaging substances. Glue and sellotape are often used as adhesives, but as you can see here, they can leak through a photograph and stain it. Sellotape can peel back the layers of a page or photo and erode it. Metal binders, such as staples and paper clips, present a similar problem. They rust over time and can create large holes in previously perfect records. Another chemical agent which should be avoided at all costs is laminate. The heat and plastic are damaging, as well as creating a barrier that prevents conservation work from being carried out. What should family archives be stored in? Good storage materials are important for protecting your papers against dust, light, improper handling, movement of papers, unforeseen damage, or items getting lost. They also support fragile documents. Whilst it would be ideal that any storage or packing material in contact with an original document be of archival quality, this is often not feasible for everyone at home. Instead, try to use a good quality box that has a base and a lid and is of a size that the documents can fit into without being squashed. A box will do 3 key things. Keep everything together so that nothing gets lost. Keep the light off the documents and photographs. Keep the dust and pests away. That said, I would suggest that you avoid metal or tin boxes, as these will corrode and damage the documents, and avoid wooden boxes, as these can have glue or adhesives holding them together. Make sure to clearly label the box and store it flat inside a cabinet or drawer, deep enough to hold it without any catching. If you have fragile documents, protect them inside a paper folder, which can be made from an A3 or A4 sheet of paper folded in half. You could also place inside the box any silica gel sachets that you get when you buy certain products such as shoes to absorb any excess moisture, or you could purchase an indicating silica gel. If you find when you check your box that the silica gel is hard and solid, then it has absorbed moisture and you need to replace it or store your box somewhere else with less moisture in the air. Archival quality material is sometimes referred to as conservation quality material. This means that it is acid-free, and if it is not clearly stated, the product is not likely to be of archival quality. If you are not sure, approved suppliers can supply the details of what their product is made from. Products may include acid-free folders, boxes, paper or board for making folders and boxes, or enclosures for wrapping or protection. Whilst being able to use archival quality material may not be achievable in the short term, it is something you could try to obtain in the future. It's important to keep the archives in the order in which they were placed by the organisation or individual that created the archives, if this still exists, as it can help a researcher to understand the context and the relationship between the documents. Archives created by one organisation or branch of a club should not be intermixed with those of any other. Be sure to make a list of what is in the box with relevant names, places and dates. If dates are not known, include approximate dates in square brackets to indicate uncertainty. You could also note why you are keeping an item if it seems more unusual, or note its importance. Always write the names of people in the photograph and the date it was taken on the back of the photograph in pencil. Making a list is important for keeping items organized, and this will help in their preservation. It will also help others to know what documents are there. You can place the list inside the box, and you may keep a second copy as a backup. If there are letters which are precious to you or handwritten notes on the backs of photographs, you could write or type up a copy of it. This transcript can act as a preservation security copy. You could also make a copy of your documents by photographing them. Copies can be used for display, to give to other family members, for handling purposes while the original is preserved, or for keeping as a security copy. Remember to photograph the back of documents that may have notes on them, such as photographs. You may consider donating your family papers to Sligo County Library. By doing so, your papers may build on the collective memory of the county. Sligo County Library Local Studies and Archive have an accession policy which describes the types of records that we are looking to collect. We recently received a donation from Professor Oliver Fitzgerald, a descendant of Andrew Mabin, who founded the Sligo Congregational Church, where the library is currently located today. The records provide a valuable addition to an area of Sligo's history that is often unknown. If you or your family have any papers that you would like to consider donating, please contact sligolib@sligococo.ie. Some common queries that come to us in the reading room and are relevant to your family archives are: what is the best way to turn over a fragile document? So the best way to turn over a really delicate item is to slide a piece of card underneath it, place another sheet over it to create a sandwich, and turn it over smoothly in your hands. This protects the document from your fingers and keeps it stable. Another question we get is, how do I store large maps and plans? While small maps can be stored flat, bigger architectural drawings and maps can be rolled around a tube if it is at least 3 inches in diameter, but not in the tube, as that will cause creasing. What are the most vulnerable records in a typical family archive? Newspapers are made from thin, highly acidic paper because it can be mass-produced cheaply. You might consider storing newspapers separately to other records, as it can contaminate them. Sligo County Library now employs an archivist. If you would like any more advice on conserving your family papers, please contact sligolib@sligococo.ie or call into our newly refurbished reading room in Westward Town Centre on Bridge Street.